Art with Miss Strauss, 4th grade art for October 19th through October 30th. Are you ready for Lesson 5, Installation Fun? Last week we talked about non-traditional sculpture. This week we are going to talk about art installations, which can sometimes include things like sculpture, but we are also going to talk about some fall festivals, like Halloween. And it's okay if you don't do these things at your house, but it's important to know about other cultures and people. And I promise this won't get too spooky. We'll also talk about the Mexican Day of the Dead festival. These holidays happen around the same time of year, but they're definitely not the same thing. Before we get too far, let's talk about setting up your art space. Find a comfortable spot for you and your art materials. Really, the only thing you'll need right now is your school laptop or iPad. In this lesson, I will be using the optional materials. I will be using writing utensils, like a regular pencil, art supplies like colored pencils, crayons, and markers, plain white paper, and possibly some digital drawing tools. Now, this lesson is in 2 parts. This part is going to be on the computer, but the next time you have art class, you should be in the classroom. We are going to talk about art installations. Just to remind you, sculpture is something that is carved or modeled or welded. It's some sort of hard material, and it's used to make different works of art. Sculpture is a traditional technique, but sometimes we have non-traditional things like ice as our medium. The Watts Tower in Watts, California is an example of sculpture, a found object art that's a permanent installation. That means it doesn't move. It's always going to be in that same spot. An installation can be a temporary piece of art that is only meant to be viewed at a certain time and location for a limited amount of time. Speaking of installations, that's one of our words to know. This week, our words to know are installations, pattern, rhythm, and festival. We'll start with the word installations. Installation art is an artistic genre of 3-dimensional works that are often site-specific and designed to transform the perception of a space. Generally, the term is applied to interior spaces, whereas exterior interventions are often called public art or land art. However, the boundaries between those 2 terms overlap. Yayoi Kusama is a famous artist who is known for creating installations. One of her famous installations is called Mirrored Infinity Room. This is a picture of the space. It is full of lights and mirrors. It is meant to be watched at a certain time and make you feel a certain way about that space. It helps create an environment. Do you remember when we talked about color in our lesson about the elements of art? It's okay if you didn't. We did say something about primary colors in that lesson. We said that there were primary colors, and there are only 3 of them: blue, red, and yellow. When you mix 2 primary colors together, you get secondary colors. When you mix the primary colors, yellow and blue, you get green. When you mix the primary colors, blue and red, you get purple. When you mix the primary colors, yellow and red, you get the secondary color, orange. Many people from Mexico speak a different language called Spanish. Since we are talking about the Mexican holiday, the Day of the Dead, I thought that we should also see if Señora Alicia could talk to us about different colors in Spanish. Are you ready?
Hola, ¿vamos a cantar? Hola, hola, ¿cómo estás? Mira, escucha y entenderás. Hola, hola, ¿cómo estás? Bienvenidos a Arte y Más. Hola, Susana.
Hola, señora Alicia. Hola, niños y niñas.
Hola means
Mira,
hello.
escucha y contesta. Tengo pinturas. Son 3 colores, ¿verdad? Rojo,
The three primary
amarillo
colors, red,
y azul.
yellow, blue.
Son los 3 colores primarios. Colores
Three primary
primarios. Voy a
colors.
mezclar amarillo,
Yellow,
amarillo con rojo.
red,
Y ahora tengo el color... Sí,
New color.
anaranjado. Muy bien, el color anaranjado. Ahora voy a
Orange.
mezclar amarillo,
yellow,
el color amarillo,
yellow,
con el color azul.
the color blue,
Y tengo entonces el color verde. Muy bien, el color verde. Bien.
very good, the color
Ahora
green.
voy a mezclar el color azul y el color rojo. ¿Verdad?
Red,
Un poquito de rojo. Y un poquito de azul.
and the color blue,
Voy a tener otro color. Y este color es el color morado. El
the color
color
purple,
morado.
purple,
El color morado. Bien.
the color purple.
Entonces tenemos
Good.
colores primarios, el color
Primary colors.
rojo, el color
Red.
amarillo y el
Yellow.
color azul. Y los
Blue.
colores secundarios, morado,
Secondary colors,
anaranjado,
orange,
verde. Muy
Green.
bien. Ahora vamos a
Very
mirar.
good.
Mira,
Hopefully you remember our lesson about the elements of art. Pattern is not an element of art, but instead a principle of design. Pattern is when the same combination of shapes and colors and lines are used throughout an area or entire work of art. The same combination is repeated in order. Pattern can be made with shapes. Maybe you've made patterns in art class, or maybe you've made patterns in math class. A pattern might be green triangle, orange square, green triangle, orange square. That's an example of a pattern. Rhythm is another principle of design. It is very similar to pattern because shapes, lines, and colors are repeated. However, the combination or repetition of the elements does not have to be in a certain order. Notice that these triangles are used all throughout. However, there is no pattern to the color. This is rhythm. The next word is festival. What do you think that word means? A festival is a day or period of celebration that is often part of a tradition. Not everyone celebrates festivals or holidays, and some people celebrate the same type of holiday or festival in different kinds of ways. It's okay to talk about festivals or holidays that we don't participate in, as long as we are being respectful of the other people who do. Now, I don't think that I would call Halloween a festival, but it is a celebration that happens this time of year. This picture shows some Halloween decorations. What do you notice about the colors? Do you notice any secondary colors? I notice orange, purple, and green. These colors are often used together with black as decorations for this holiday. Halloween is one of the oldest holidays, and it is celebrated all around the world. A long time ago in Europe, Halloween costumes were worn as disguises to trick wandering spirits and fairies. Back then, they also believed that jack-o'-lanterns kept the spirits and fairies out of their houses. Halloween falls on October 31st. That's the end of the month. People tell spooky stories, decorate their houses, carve jack-o'-lanterns, get dressed up for trick-or-treating, and eat lots and lots of candy. Candy. While Halloween and the Day of the Dead may share some similarities, they are definitely not the same thing. What is the Day of the Dead? Let's find out more.
Se quiere a la buena, porque es peligroso querer a la mala.
Today, I'm celebrating Día de los Muertos. That's Spanish for the Day of the Dead. It is a Mexican holiday where people remember family members and friends who have died. It is celebrated on November 1st and 2nd. Even though you might see a lot of skulls and skeletons, Día de los Muertos is not meant to be scary. It is a happy celebration. During Día de los Muertos, families build and decorate beautiful altars called ofrendas. Decorations include pictures of loved ones, water, flowers, foods, and candles. Sugar skulls are made and decorated during the holiday. The sugar skulls can also be eaten. Yum! These people are making papel picados. They're decorations made out of paper and cut into designs. Look at the dancers. They have their faces painted like skeletons. Listen to the happy music. The dancers are wearing colorful dresses. At the end of the festival, there is a candlelit parade to the cemetery to visit the altars. Wow! The altars look different at night with all the candles. It is nice to remember our friends and family even when they're no longer with us. Do you celebrate any holidays? Which holidays do you spend with friends and family?
Now that we've talked a little bit about Halloween and the Day of the Dead, let's think about how those seasonal holidays impact the seasonal art all around us. Thinking about some of the displays and altars that we saw for the Day of the Dead, and thinking about art installations and how it makes us feel, what do you notice about these details in this altar? Do you notice all of the colors and candles and even food? This isn't meant to be left out for a long time, only a little while. In its own way, it is like an art installation. Here's another example where they have used flowers, these are marigolds, and seeds, and beans, maybe rice and sugar, and corn, in an interesting way, and these are all little bits of things stacked up. It is definitely meant to be temporary. We could think of this as an art installation. Did you know that these orange flowers are called marigolds? They're very important to this celebration. Thinking back about what we know about installations and art, maybe we could draw a simple sketch or design of an art installation that you would like to see for the seasons. Maybe you add things like pumpkins or gourds, or maybe some marigolds. How can you incorporate the things that we have learned about the Day of the Dead? Maybe you draw your own sugar skull with new patterns and rhythm. It's all about trying something new. could draw a cat in a new kind of way. Be creative and use your imagination. In this part of the lesson, I'm going to show you how I drew my pumpkin with dark and light, and mostly using my secondary colors. I'm just using basic drawing supplies and office supplies like white printer paper, a few crayons, and a pencil.
Our lesson today, I wanted to show you a couple of different things. The first thing, when I change the light, notice how the shadows change. Ready? Hey Google, turn the lights on. Do you see how the light and shadow changed on these objects? I have another light over here. Let's see if we can change it again. Part of setting up is getting the light just right. Now that's pretty bright, but I don't really like it. Now we have this nice light and shadow on these objects. You may recognize from our video before the marigolds from the Day of the Dead celebration. We have yellow and orange, and also these right here, they're not pumpkins, these are gourds. This is a gourd. This is a gourd. This is a gourd. Maybe you've eaten one of these before. This is called a spaghetti squash, butternut squash. These are all examples of gourds. I'm going to try and set up my still life right like that so you guys can see, and we're going to look for the shadows and the light, how it hits. You should use light pressure so that if you need to go back and erase, it's easier, or if you cover it up with a crayon, you won't see it as much. Our paper can be in landscape mode for this drawing. That means that it is long on the top and short on the sides. I'm going to make some big pumpkins. If I draw a teeny tiny little pumpkin, it won't work. I'm going to use my hand as a guide. I'm going to put it right in the middle of the page, and I'm going to start with a dot on one side, and then I'm going to do a dot on the other. Now I'm not going to push very hard at all because I don't want to see this. That's how big my pumpkin is going to be. That's a halfway point. We're going to take different lines to connect from here to here. We're going to make a curved line. Ready? It's going to make almost like a C shape, or a backward C, around this way on one side of this line, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other. We're going to do that again, but this time we're going to go out a little bit further on each side because we need to make our pumpkins fat. We like some chubby pumpkins. Ready? Every time I add a line on either side, it makes my pumpkin wider and wider. My pumpkin needs a pumpkin stem. We're going to do a line up, a line over, and a line back down. You can continue to add more layers to your pumpkin. I'm going to stop right there. I need to add the next part to my pumpkin. I'm going to add my horizon line is going to be a line that goes all the way across, but not over top of my pumpkin. I'm going to have my horizon line so that I can tell the difference between the background and the foreground. So my horizon line is simply a line that goes all the way across from one side to the other. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight, and it doesn't go over top of my pumpkin. It goes behind. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go across and stop. Let me pick my pencil up and go over to the other side about here and continue that line all the way across right to the very edge. I have a table or the earth that my pumpkin is sitting on, and maybe the sky or the background here. I want you to notice something about the light. On my pumpkin, I have a light side where the light is shining and a dark side where there's more shadow. I have a lamp right here, that red lamp. I'm going to turn it on. Watch what happens to the pumpkins. It gets very bright on one side and very dark on the other. The light is on this side, and the shadow, the dark, is on this side. I'm going to choose a dark color and say that it's going to be on this side, and a light color, like a bright yellow, like a sunny yellow, is going to be on this side. So now I have my shadow and my light. My light is here, and so it's going to shine, and it's going to hit this edge of this pumpkin. Ready? Remember that line that we drew up the middle? I'm going to stop because I need to stay on this side of my pumpkin, and on the opposite is my shadow. Ready? I'm going to stay on this side and follow that contour. I have light and shadow here, but I also need light and shadow here on my pumpkin stem. A line up and stop. That stays on this side, and then a line up and stop on this side. I have light and shadow here, light and shadow here. I have one more spot to put my shadow. My pumpkin, my real pumpkin, is by this light. The light hits on this side, and the light can't go through the pumpkin. That means on this side, there's less light, there's shadow. Now, it's not completely black because there's other lights in the room and the windows are here. But on this side is the contrast with bright white, light, and then shadow here. On my shadow side, I'm going to draw the shadow of my pumpkin. I have shadow and light for my pumpkin colors. I'm going to continue coloring this in with my green, purple, and orange crayons.
I hope this demo helps you draw pumpkins. That's the end of the lesson for today. Remember to keep filling in those colors, and thanks for practicing art with me. Goodbye.